How superb was that episode? It is my great pleasure to introduce the incredible cast of The Handmaid's Tale. Elisabeth Moss, who plays June, Max Minghella, who plays Nick, Amanda Brugel, who plays Rita, Bradley Whitford, who plays Joseph Lawrence, and Madeline Brewer, who plays Janine. I wanted to start by asking about the first few minutes of this episode because it picks up just a few seconds after, which is such a rare thing to see in television. And I think also it really steps into helping the audience understand June's decision. When you were filming the end of season 2, did you all know that that was how the story was going to flow and pick up?
I don't think when we were filming the end of it, did I know it was going to start right away there. But it makes sense. I mean, you really have to know pretty much what we all wanted to know right away, which is why the fuck did you do that? So I think it was a really smart thing to do, to just dive right in and try to explain ourselves. And it was the only thing we could do. And I love when shows do that, when they pick right up. It's very rare, you're right. And I love that.
I also wanted to ask all of you about the uniqueness of having such access to Margaret Atwood throughout the seasons that you've been filming, because I think that's such a rare thing for actors to have such consistent access to the original source material and the writer, and how that's really helped you in mapping out your characters and understanding the storyline.
I mean, she's honestly been mainly and most beneficially to us and very generously, incredibly supportive. We have access to her, but she's been really, really cool about just loving the scripts. She reads all of them. I don't think gives that many notes, if any at all. She's been really, really generous in that way, which is incredibly rare. And it's a testament to our writer's room.
Yeah. She had strong feelings about the name of our baby.
Yes.
That I remember.
Yeah, that was the only thing.
In that she wanted to name it? Yeah. One of the things I always find quite interesting for actors as well is that now you're 3 seasons in, and obviously at the beginning of the show you map out this idea of who your character is and you do a lot of research and you build a backstory. And so I'm curious really like what the work is that you still do in terms of that research. Going into season 3, are you still mapping out a backstory once you see the story arc that you're going through for any of you? And has it caused any of you to pivot what you initially created for any of your characters?
I'm new.
For anyone but Bradley.
I'll say I'm the Canadian in the cast, and I love Margaret Atwood. Had such a love affair with the book since I was 15, and when I started, I noticed that in the book there are 2 Marthas in the house. There's the Martha Rita and the Martha Cora, and so when I was cast as Rita and slowly noticed there were no other actors around playing Cora, I chose to play some scenes as Cora, and Cora is the more motherly one, the lighthearted one. I call the 2 characters Bad Rita and Good Rita, but it was really just probably playing 2 people at once. And slowly, as the seasons have gone on, we've started to see more and more Cora, more and more of the mother figure, more humanity, more empathy. And I truly think it's because she's developed a relationship with June. I think that she was so shut off before. As we learned from season 1, a handmaid had killed herself right before June arrived. And so it's with the just delving into a new friendship and having a companion in the house, relearning how to love and trust another human being. It's changed how I attack Rita, because season 3, I truly think I'd play it Cora almost all the way through. There's remnants of Rita, but it's more gentle.
I wanted to ask you, Madeline, about your character, because I think it's such a beautiful portrayal of mental health and mental stability, and I think you play that part with such delicacy. And I'm just really curious about what you thought about and how you've approached it.
I guess from the get-go with Janine, it's always been trying to make her a more multifaceted and nuanced character than just playing crazy, which is never. It's just not it's not as interesting, but it's also just doesn't really serve the character. So yeah, I just kind of trying to do justice to someone who's obviously struggling and going through something, and really honor that.
And I also love how you made her such an optimistic character in the face of everything that she's going through. Is that something that's really important to you to hold on to for her? Because it's such a rare form of activism.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of her way. That's her own personal form of resistance. Is that just refusal to quit and refusal to succumb to this abysmal reality. So that's her own personal form of resistance. June's looks a lot different, but yeah, that's her kind of. Yep.
I think Janine's the most sane person in the room sometimes, honestly. I mean, she's the one who's like, this is fucked up. Like, this is, why are we doing this? Or I don't want to do this. Or can you please hand me my baby? Yeah. You know, it's like.
She kind of, when she tells it like it is,
Yeah.
she's kind of the voice of, I think, what everyone's thinking, but knows better than to say. So that's fun too.
I'm also so intrigued when I watch the scenes with you guys together as handmaids in your ability to act without even seeing your scene partner. How did you guys figure out and learn how to navigate that?
I was just saying yesterday that there is some point where I hug Lizzie at some point in the season. I just kept like bopping her in the head with my thing, and I was like, I'm really sorry, and she's like, I can't see, so I don't know. But I think it is very cool that the cone of shame has become like, in the first season, it's a way of kind of oppressing these women and making it so that, you know, we're always in like a submissive stance and looking down, and now it's become a way of like, we can communicate without even looking at each other. We don't have to, we know that other person's there, and we can communicate now without having to be like cone.
Yeah. And I think using it has become really interesting for all of us, and using it specific moments to look at each other and connect with the eyes, and to not. There's a really beautiful scene that Maddie and I have in this season, and the entire thing is played straightforward, mostly in this 2-shot, and we don't look at each other once in the entire thing, and I'm lying to her about something.
Fishbowl.
Huh? Fishbowl. And I'm trying to make her feel better about something, and there's something really beautiful about actually not looking at each other in that scene, and using that, the fact that she can't see my face and I can't see hers, I can only hear her voice. So it's become actually a tool that I think we find really interesting sometimes. But hugging, no, we have not figured that out.
And Max, one of the things I love about the way that you play Nick is it's such an internal character, and you really can't give anything away to the characters around you, yet you're giving the audience so much, which is such a unique dichotomy in your performance, and how you figure out how to do that as a performer.
It helps I get to work with this person here who is extraordinary, as you all know, and I think it's very hard to lie to Lizzie, you know. She doesn't, it wouldn't work. And that's a great place to start from when you're entering a scene. And I love the character I play too, and I think that really helps. This is my first time seeing the episode tonight, and it's always so humbling to watch it. It's like a stark reminder every time I get to engage with the show. And Bradley and I were sort of like whispering to each other the whole time. It's just beautifully made, and it's beautifully performed, and it's really about something, but I don't find it to be like vegetables. Sometimes I think the show gets painted with an unfair brush. It's not an education channel. It's really good television, and the reason it's taken on a resonance beyond that is because people were entertained by it first and foremost. So I feel very lucky to be a part of it, and I feel even luckier to be playing somebody within that larger context that I genuinely care about.
And I'm interested in that because every single interview that I've ever seen any of you do or read, and even some of our audience questions tonight, are all about the political parallels between the show. I mean, even right now we have the Trumps in the UK being welcomed, and I was like, that's like season 2 when they go to Canada. They're being welcomed. And I think it's such a huge responsibility, and you all have made that decision that you do answer those questions, and you do speak to the parallels that you see with the show, and you don't really shy away from that. And at what point you realized that was going to be a responsibility, and how you've navigated the way that you would like to speak to it as individuals outside of your characters?
Oh, shit.
But also for you, Bradley, because you just came into the show, everyone else started filming when the president was up for election and we weren't in this current climate, but you actually knew what you were getting yourself into.
Yeah. You know, look, the bottom line is part of the reason, you know, there's two things going on here to me. can't believe I get to be a part of this because it is simultaneously, I think, I think Lizzie's giving like the performance of a generation in a watershed. I keep telling her it's like she's doing Sophie's Choice, the series. It's like it just does not stop for her. And I think the show is clearly one of those watershed generational shows, and part of the reason that it is connecting, I think, at a moment when right-wing nationalism ideology is exploding all over the planet. It'd be nice to think that Trump was an aberration, but it would not be accurate. And part of the reason this is resonating is that misogyny is at the reptilian brainstem of right-wing ideology. It is not a bug. It is the feature. And just in the time if you told me when I got this part that a number of states would be passing laws that would punish women who were the victims of rape for not carrying that child to term in a harsher way than they would punish the rapist, I would think you were some sort of aluminum hat, tinfoil, liberal conspiracy theorist. But this is happening. And we're not there. We're not there yet. But the most terrifying things I think a lot of people feel about the show are these flashbacks where suddenly she can't get money. And we were at the UN the other day talking about these issues worldwide, and that's the way it happens. It's the frog gets boiled, and there's an air of confusion and unreality while it's happening. It certainly, but you're absolutely right. You cannot serve civic vegetables. One thing they said at the UN, which is really true, which I think is the center of the power of this show, is statistics people are too abstract for people to connect to. A single story that, toddler on the beach, drowned. Hundreds of thousands of people were dying. That, individual story, can connect. And I think that's the power of the show. But the weird thing is that it has this political aspect to it, but it's just a stunning creation to me, creatively.
Well said.
I also think one of the things that the show does so successfully is display the different ways in which people respond to these situations, because whenever you study history, everyone goes, oh, well, I wouldn't have gone along with this, I wouldn't have done that, but you do what you have to survive. What have you guys learned about the importance of resilience and different forms of coping within a dystopian society from doing the show? Like, is there anything that you've watched a character, either your character or another character, go through that you would never have considered being something that people would do, such as June's decision to stay, that now your eyes are open to? That's a form of survival.
There's a lot that June does this season, especially in sort of the back half of the season, that I would not have thought she would do, that I would not have thought someone would be capable of doing. But we explore a lot this year the complexities of the amount of time spent in Gilead. The first couple seasons were sort of setting it up, and she's only been there maybe 2-3 years. And now at this point, she's been there for a while, and there's been a systematic rape. She's had 2 children taken from her, managed to get one out, but it's not been easy for her. It's been a really tough time, and we've really explored what that would do to a person and how that would change you. And I think about halfway towards the end of the season, she is not the same June that was captured. By the end of the season, she certainly isn't the same person. And I think that's pretty true of what would happen to you if you were really embedded in that system for that long. But what's interesting is we do have sort of so many representations of different paths people could take. Janine takes a path that works for her. There's some positivity there. There's some belief that the right thing will happen. And that enables her to survive. It's pretty incredible the different things that people will find in order just to survive that kind of system. Commander Lawrence, the ways that he's justified his life and what he's done, and the ways that he's coped with that, and the way he's coped with his wife, and everyone has found different ways to survive that I think are pretty accurate and pretty true to what you would end up doing.
I think a key part of the reason that the show and the writing is so great is I think we've all expressed in different ways something. These characters are not static. There's a constant sense of sort of discovering what they are by discovering the next moment, and there's a lot of writing that doesn't do that in the world elsewhere.
And I think we all saw the incredible pictures of you guys shooting in Washington. Could you talk a little bit about what that experience meant to you guys personally and what it was like on set to be doing such a monumental thing?
Yeah. I was the only one there. Okay. It was pretty epic. It really was. That being in that space, being in that memorial, I think the thing that hits you really hard, it's a beautiful place. And I think that the thing that hits you and the thing that hit me was this monument to what this country was built on and the ideals that it was built on and what the Constitution was supposed to be and what we were trying to do and what a lot of us are still trying to do. And it feels very sacred. And it's odd to think of a statue and a place feeling like that, but it really does. And so it was an incredible experience, and getting to do that scene. I do a scene with Yvonne right in front of the Lincoln Memorial, and there were only about 5 people allowed in there, and nothing can touch the ground. And it's a really kind of special experience, and we're fighting, and our voices are echoing in this chamber, and then you walk out and there's hundreds of handmaids standing there, and the president is literally our actual president is literally a few blocks away, and sometimes you feel like that line between reality and this show gets blurry, and sometimes you feel like you can't see it at all, and it's a very strange, eerie feeling. So it was a beautiful experience. It was moving, and we had a good time, but it was also there was an eeriness to it for sure. Yeah, I think you've shot in D.C. quite a bit.
Yes. Yes, I have.
Did you ever shoot at the memorial?
Very similar show, too.
Very similar show.
We shot up there. It's intense. You're right. You get when you're doing a show with any sort of cultural, relevance, and you go there, you're reminded of there's an almost holy quality to this spectacular unfulfilled aspiration that we seem to be regressing on at the moment.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the directing style a bit, because so much of the show takes place without dialogue and with extreme close-ups. So you're really just using the top half of your body in a lot of the shots. For each of you, because the camera is capturing all of you in this way, how much awareness do you have of the camera and the way that it is different from a traditional TV camera setup? Are you thinking about it? Are you performing any differently based on those choices that they've made directorially?
I never know where the camera is, and I run into it all the time. Because sometimes I haven't had a lot of those extreme close-ups. I've had 2 this year, and both times I ran into it. It's so close to your face. It's so close. I don't know how you do it. But I like to be completely unaware of where the camera is, and I feel like this is the first time I've been with a cast where everyone is so powerful and everyone is so talented. It's almost like doing a play, because sometimes you do shows and people show up for their coverage and they turn it on, and then when it's your coverage, they're on their phone and they're not there. But this is like a play where if one person delivers, everyone is delivering. So I'd like to not know where it is, because I almost like to treat it like I'm in a play and not conscious of performing for a camera. So that's probably why I run into it a lot. But it is difficult when it gets really close, because you don't want, this is not the show that you can allow yourself to be self-conscious. And so you don't want to be self-conscious of your face, but when you're that close to the camera, you suddenly become really self-conscious of what you look like without makeup on and like a turban. So, but it's fun.
Yeah. No, it is. It is fun. I've definitely had moments where I've seen close-ups and been like, I need to pluck my eyebrows.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
oh, wow.
Is my
Very,
one eye
very
that much
personal.
lower than my other eye? Yeah. I thought it was cute.
I don't have that problem.
I know. I mean, it was funny because I was watching that close-up of Yvonne, and I've seen the show a number of times, and on a big screen, I was like, oh, she has contacts on. like I could actually see that she had contacts on. I think that there's a couple of things about the direction of the show that, first of all, when I can tell you when everybody's blood is flowing, and there is the emotional freedom going on, it's because of a very nourishing, sane atmosphere on the set. I think what Mike does is mind-boggling to me. The way he sets up expectations and turns, the way he plays with time and explodes moments are incredible. Just an observation for the show people in the room. It's interesting to me that I love the sparseness of the language in this, and I think there are a number of shows. I think I noticed, like on The Crown too. I don't know if it's because I was born on a show of just verbal diarrhea, which is a wonderful thing. But there is real power that goes to these moments, just the way they allow these moments to breathe.
And the filmmaking is also not shy of the melodrama. I really noticed that tonight, like with the Serena burning the house. It's not naturalistic, but it's completely organic to the language of the show that's been established. And Mike Barker, who Bradley's referring to, directed this episode and is our sort of fairy godmother. He's incredibly collaborative, and I feel like the filmmaking and the performances almost become a dance. It's how our performances are being received is almost as important as what we're doing, and I feel like that's always a part of the conversation in quite a unique way.
And actually for you, Max, because you directed your first feature recently, Teen Spirit, has that made you think any differently about anything that you do as an actor and as a performer on that side of the camera, having been a filmmaker now?
Show up on time.
Show up on time. Know your lines. No, I don't think so. I feel like it's just yet another reminder of how lucky I am to get to work with all these people and learn from them. Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask you, Elisabeth, about your involvement as an executive producer. And I know it's not a vanity title. You're very hands-on and you're very involved. What are some of the things that you're most proud of helping shape with the show so far?
I want to speak for you for a second.
I know, so do I.
Yeah, me too.
I want all of us to do
No,
that.
I'd
got
actually
things
love to
say.
hear how...
I want to mansplain the
I
fuck
want to
out of this.
mansplain the shit out of it. I do. I really want to mansplain the shit out of this. Nobody gets this. I talk about this. I've been talking about this all day. Nobody understands the degree to which Lizzie produces this show. They don't understand because she's doing Sophie's Choice, the series. And so we all go in our brains, well, that's the max out capacity for a human being. I've literally had phone calls where they go, Lizzie looked at your call sheet and she thinks, we can bring you in 30 minutes later. We're gonna, whatever it is, like we're gonna move this around, like this line, I'll get a call from her because she's looked at the dailies of something that we've shot the night. I'm like, when does this person sleep? How does she have a brain that is seemingly capable of looking at something from 1,700 angles? She understands things about production logistics that most first ADs don't understand. She could do every single job on this set. She sort of does do every job on this set. So not to mansplain too much, but really, like, this is a pretty impressive person who is sort of both our showrunner and our lead.
I'll build on that.
To the other man.
No, it's really ridiculous. Because it's absurd. I mean, for Bruce, she's absolutely the creative touchstone of it, involved in development of scripts, notes on scripts, working with directors on her day off to figure out what the shots are going to be. She knows what fucking lenses. I'm Wilford fucking Brimley up here. Like, I've been doing this forever, and I don't know what they're talking about. It's incredible. So there.
And with a smile, always, I just want to say that is something that, like, I know it has nothing to do with, like, the production aspect, but Lizzie always has a smile on her face and, like, a hug and hello and how are you? And she's in on set. Like, I've never been there where I don't think without her. Like, it just blows my mind every time, and I'm obsessed with you. You know that.
Well, gosh. That made me feel real good. That's really, really kind of all of you. Thank you for saying all of that. I really appreciate that. I will say that I love this show so much. I care about it so much. And that's where my involvement comes from. I really do. And I think that's what people feel, is that I actually really care about everyone's storylines. I really care about taking care of their characters, about making sure that people are happy with what they're getting and happy with how things are going, and people are getting along with the directors and everyone's communicating and collaborating, and that's really important to me. And I care about this show, probably more than anything I've ever done, and it means something to me. So I think that's what kind of comes first for me, is the love of it and the putting my heart into it, really, more than anything else.
I have to say something. But doing that elevates, that ups our game. Because I remember first season, I had a scene, I was scared to death of you. And I had a scene where I was doing like cooking or cleaning or chopping or whatever I was doing. And you sent me a message afterwards saying how beautiful it was and how proud you were of me. And you don't have the time to do that. I was just chopping vegetables. And for you to weigh in, and what it did for me, what I realized afterwards, is it upped my game for the rest of the performance, because I was like, hey, she's gonna watch me chop vegetables. I have to chop those vegetables to the best of my ability. And Lizzie's watching me chop some veggies. But it informs all of us, because all of us want to make her proud. We see how hard she works, and so all of us are a little competitive within ourselves, and we wanna up our game as well, chop the shit out of those vegetables. So she's lovely.
Thank you again. I mean, as we all know, this is not something you can do on your own. And I love the collaborative nature of it. And for me, getting to have these actors come in, and I don't get to see them all the time. So when I have a scene with Nick, I'm really excited because I get to work with Max today. And, when I have a scene with Mandy, like, I get really excited because I get to play with my girl, and you I worked way too much with, and
it's a rest day.
Yes, can relax. And Maddie, you know how I feel about our material. It's very special to me. So I think for me, I so appreciate everything you guys are saying. It means so much to me, and I'm gonna literally think about it tonight, and probably tomorrow. But I can only be as good as the people with me. I can't, and I have the best team of actors. I have the best I have the best support team and the best collaborators. I really, really do. And it's only, I know that they think that what they said, but I don't know if they realize how much they actually inspire me and how much they make me raise my game and make me want to do a better job. When we get a good scene, I want it to be a good scene, you know? I want to bring it because I know it's our scene. Like, and that's important to me. So that's how I feel.
I'm not gonna shut up. So I met her, she's like 17, great actor on West Wing, young kid. Suddenly I'm in this thing, and look, actors, unfortunately, for very good reasons, me included, you adopt a psychology of submission because you have to be chosen, because there is this weird hierarchy. And it's so weird to come back and work with this person who is absolutely inspiring me and confirming that a fully engaged actor is what you need to create something really special. Not somebody who is simply following direction and saying the words, but fully engaged, and that's really inspiring to me. So I'll shut up.
I gotta do more of these SAG things.
Yeah,
These
yeah,
are great. I'm gonna come back.
Come back
Book me
every
another
season. I wanted to throw to a couple of questions that we had from the audience coming in. This one is to the Maids and the Marthas, which I like that phrasing. We love the season 2 finale. Could you talk a bit about your character's part in that spontaneous resistance underground? And was it important that it start with a baby? And I'd love to actually kind of specifically have you, Amanda, speak to that, because I think what was so fun about Rita is we had no idea that she was feeling that way, and that was
gangster?
that was her underground motivation. Yeah.
I wasn't listening. What was the question? Sorry.
It's about the season 2 finale and the sudden underground and passage out for June.
It was thrilling. I didn't know it was going to happen until about 6 days before we started filming. So I was surprised and excited and nervous because I wanted to be authentic, and I wanted to pay homage to these women who have been hustling people out of Gilead for a while. Was really excited and thrilled. I was a bit worried about starting season 3 because with this girl coming back, I thought, oh, I'm going to get in trouble and I'm going to get fired from the Waterford house. But I think the most exciting part about it is that I dove in and did a lot of research, not only about the actual underground railroad that happened here, because I feel it's very similar, but also just underground networks that are driven particularly by females all around the world, of women getting medicine in and out of their countries, of women getting sex trafficking victims out or child brides out. And it really opened my eyes into the power of women when they unite, and the power that women have that are underestimated. It's and that's the group I feel like the Marthas are. They represent. They're not seen or heard, and we've taken that to our advantage.
So this question is from Ashley, and she's just asking about how do you approach a role when you first receive a script? What kind of book work and physical work do you do to find your character?
Amanda and I actually recently just talked about how we're both very physical, like in finding a character, and how we both kind of like to find our own special little physicality. For me, I have one built right in because I don't have any of my right side peripheral vision, so that's makes it kind of easy. But I know that I've adopted kind of like a little meek, submissive, like enclosed little space for myself, and that is just Janine's whole world is just right here. And that helps me kind of just find her. When I can find her physically, it helps me to find the world on the whole. Because it is, when you're not in the red robes and the braid and bonnet and everything, it is very different. It's like looking in the mirror with those colors on, and it just brings it all into focus.
That made total sense.
And I'd love to actually expand on that a little bit in the physicality of the show. It's such a physical show, and you guys have a lot of work with stunt doubles as well. Is there any particular scene for any of you that has stood out as being a really, really difficult day that you had to shoot physically, and how you kind of pushed through and pulled the scene off?
Me.
I think you've gone through the brunt of it.
Yeah, there's been a few physical scenes this year. I definitely have done things that have hurt the next day. None of which I can tell you because I guess I can't spoil anything. But digging in frozen, wet dirt and trying to dig a hole is very difficult. I'm also not like a strong person. Like I don't go to the gym. I'm not like particularly healthy. So like I'm not built. I always say like I'm not built for stunts and for stunts and physical activity. So I have a hard time with that kind of thing. There was a lot of running. Sometimes. It's a lot of running. I got into a big fight scene. And that was a tough one that had a bunch of stunts in it, and that was really hard. And I was very sore the next day and very bruised. And then there's a lot of cold. There's a lot of cold in Canada. A lot of cold. So yeah, I couldn't even narrow it down to like one physical day. It's just a constant sort of test of like me constantly questioning whether or not I should start going to the gym.
Wait, I have a question. Was Alexis in the water with the baby? Not the real baby, but did Alexis really go into the water?
Yes, I think it's a combo. I think there was a stunt woman as well, but most of it is her obviously with a fake baby.
But her body was in that water.
It's pretty incredible.
And
I remember
it was
freezing, and it was also the water was so rough that they had to adapt a lot of the shots, and they had to kind of adapt what they wanted to do that night because the water was so much rougher than they thought it was going to be, and it was actually pretty dangerous. I remember watching the dailies, and I remember texting her and being like, "Oh my hat goes off to you," because that genuinely looked dangerous. And I kept thinking every time she ran, I kept thinking she was gonna slip. I mean, it's pretty incredible what she does.
The baby was really upset.
Yeah. Really upset.
Very upset. Yeah. Like, what the hell is that? I don't want to be in show business. Mom.
Mommy?
This is your thing, Mom.
And I'd love for each of you, just kind of going down the line, maybe starting with you, Madeline, to just kind of talk a little bit about what's your favorite aspect of your character from playing it now for 3 seasons, and what are you most excited for audiences to see that's maybe a new aspect of their personality in season 3?
The part I like playing about Janine, and what I've loved about her from the beginning is just, that unrelenting optimism is kind of fun because I'm a bit of a pessimist myself. But I've loved this season has been physically very brutal for Janine. So kind of seeing how that changes her and how what's worked for her up until now. Now I think she's moving on. I can't say anything about it.
You're doing good.
Yeah.
God, I love this weirdo. I would say it's the kind of unpredictability and contradictions in this guy, and it's a really interesting acting experience because talking about acting is like dancing about architecture, and it always sounds pretentious. But there's an approach that you have to take with this guy that is it's about widening the possibilities rather than sort of narrowing, and that's a really interesting thing. There's a shocking thing that happened that just sort of continues to move me that I didn't understand when I read the script, but just with Lizzie, there was this shock. I forget what it was, an early scene, but just the realization that this guy hasn't been seen, understood, or challenged, and it creates such an odd connection between these two characters, and that's just been striking. And I have no fucking idea where it's going to go. In the take and in the show.
I love her quietness. I'm not a very quiet person in real life, and so I find there's such a strength in her stillness, and how mysterious she is. There's a strength in that too, because I find I have to over-explain things. In real life, I also love her sass eyes. I have never been able to look at people in real life with such filthy looks in my life, and I give everyone a filthy look in this show, and I live for it. Ooh, I live for it. And this season, I'm most excited for people to completely contradict myself, I'm most excited for people to see her heart and glimpses of who she probably was before Gilead, and to fall in love with her a little more as she's starting to show love a little more.
I think I feel very lucky to play Nick, mostly because he's quite a romantic character, and I'm quite a romantic person. So I find that very easy to access, and it's quite a complicated show, and all these characters are quite complicated, and yet I feel like I get more often than not to play an emotion which is quite simple and straightforward and primal, and it's the kind of material I gravitate towards watching, and I think that Lizzie and I maybe share that sensibility a little bit. So it's quite fun for us to do these scenes often, I don't know, like, to say what, to follow what Bradley said. I have no idea where this is going, and I never really know where it's going, and that's why it's good TV. I think it's so unpredictable. And what happens this season is really exciting. It's sort of smashing all of these infrastructures that we've set up. I mean, literally burning the house down. And I'm really curious and excited to see where this all leads.
I think my favorite thing about June, which can also be something that really gets her into trouble sometimes, is she has sort of an innate belief in the good of humanity. And she won't give up on you until the bitter end. You really have to break her pretty hard in order for her to let you go, in order for her to turn on you. And it takes a lot. And she just won't give up on somebody for the longest time, whether it's Serena or Waterford, and namely in season 3, it's Lawrence, where she just knows that if she just thinks that maybe he could actually end up being a good guy.
She's
and
always blowing on the spark of decency.
Yeah. And just won't give up. And in the end, it's almost like she doesn't even care why he does the right thing, but she just knows that he will. And sometimes it gets her into trouble, because sometimes there are just bad people who will never do the right thing. So it can be her weakness as well. But I think that's something that I really like about her and think is really unique and really hard quality to hold on to. I think what I'm looking forward to about this season and people seeing this season is the way that we are going to subvert your expectations about what a resistance looks like. We're gonna break June, and there it's the only way. It's the only way to get her to be the leader that she has to be, is to just completely kind of break her. And I'm really looking forward to seeing people's reaction to that and to bringing them on that journey. I promise we will not. I promise we will not break her forever. I promise she'll always be that June. But I'm excited for people to see that.
Yeah. I just want to say huge congratulations. I remember when I first saw the few episodes of season 1 just before they came out, and I couldn't believe that I had to hold on to that feeling without other people knowing and having that experience. And that is still how I feel, and I know it's how everyone in this room feels. The new season premieres on Wednesday, June 5th on Hulu. Thank you so much for coming out this evening.
Thank you.